that they are people with faces. Those who are still alive reside now in the United States, Venezuela, and other countries. I feel I should say that in my terrible pilgrimage from prison to prison, I did meet military men and women and civilian officials of great humaneness, men and women who helped as much as they could, and in so doing risked going to prison themselves. In order to protect them, their names and the favors they did us cannot be revealed. I do not want to conclude without recalling those to whom I owe my freedom and reiterating my gratitude to them. Their names are not written here because the list would grow much too long for a brief introduction, and also because there are people whose names I do not even know, people whose thoughts were with me, who anonymously worked to free me, help me, who did things for me I perhaps am not even aware of. To all of these I send, with this book, my best, the best from my memory, the best from my heart. Armando Valladares, Madrid, 1984. Chapter 1. Detention. My eyes flew open. The cold muzzle of a machine gun held to my temple had shocked me awake. I was confused and frightened. 3 armed men were standing around my bed, and one of them was shoving my head into the pillow with his machine gun. "Where's the pistol?" As the man with the machine gun kept my head immobile, another slid his hand under it to check for that purely imaginary pistol I was supposed to be armed with. Then the oldest of them, a thin man with graying hair, spoke to me again. He brusquely told me to get dressed. I had to go with them. These were agents of Castro's political police. I was to learn later that the older man, the one doing the talking, had been an agent in the Batista regime as well. There was a 4th agent in the living room keeping watch on my mother and sister. I hadn't heard them come in. When they knocked at the front door, it was my mother who had gone to open it. I was in a deep sleep in the last bedroom down the hall, with blankets piled on me to keep out the cold. The 3 agents made me get dressed in front of them. I reached to open the closet, but one of them cut me off. He opened the door himself and slid the hangers to one side, one by one, and then he gave a quick glance around at the rest of the things in the closet. I began to dress while they stood around me and watched me carefully. But they seemed more relaxed now, less nervous. When these agents are sent out to detain some citizen, they are not told who he is or why he is being arrested. They are told, though, as a matter of course, that he is armed and extremely dangerous. Now they knew that I wasn't armed and I didn't seem particularly dangerous. In fact, I never had been either. When I had gotten my clothes on, they began the search of the house. The search was thorough, painstaking, long. They spent almost 4 hours going through everything. There was not 1 inch of the house they didn't go over with a fine-tooth comb. They opened jars and bottles, they went through the books page by page, they emptied toothpaste tubes, they looked at the motor of the refrigerator, at the mattress. I tried to reassure my mother and sister. I told them this had to be some sort of mistake since I hadn't done anything that warranted my being arrested. I kept up a conversation with my mother, who was terribly nervous and upset by this middle-of-the-night violation of the peace of our home, but as we spoke I tried to think who might have reported that I had weapons. It seemed obvious to me that it must have been someone who wanted to see me detained for a while, see me harassed on some trumped-up charge. Of course, sooner or later it would all be straightened out. I figured the denunciation must have come from someone in my office. At that time I had a good job in the Caja Postal de Ahorros, which might be termed the Postal Savings Bank, an office attached to the Ministry of Communications in the revolutionary government. I had received several promotions, thanks largely to the fact that I was a university student. Some of the people I worked with there I knew were out to get me. A few weeks before, one of the directors, a man I had developed a close friendship with, called me in to warn me that the political police had been around asking questions about me. I had had some friction in the office because I had frequently spoken out against communism as a political system, because it went against my religious beliefs and some of my more idealistic notions of the world. In those days, several things had happened which could be seen as signaling the radicalization of the